Yeah.
Is Tim back in?
He said he came right back in.
Yeah, I don't know if we
I don't-
admit him.
I gotta admit him.
Is Tim back in? Yep.
He said he
Mute us on that. Yeah, I don't know if we admit him.
I gotta admit him.
Yep. All right. Gotta unmute him.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, for some
Yeah, we
reason,
can hear you, Tim.
my camera is for the front's not working. So my camera for the back's working, but not the camera for the front. So it was working earlier.
your computer around.
Yeah.
I could do that, but then I won't.
Then you won't see any of the content.
Yes, Scott.
I guess
I believe we're ready when you.
it's okay. I guess I'll just go ahead and run the meeting as in voice.
Yep, that'll work.
All right, and I think we have everyone here. So it's a little bit late. It's 7:06, but we'll go ahead.
I don't see
She's on.
Jan.
She's on.
Oh, she on there.
I'm here.
Okay.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. If we can all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. And if we can please call roll call.
Roll call. Bruce Angel.
Yep.
Tim Dean.
Here.
Jan Berg.
Here.
Yvonne Orman.
Van Ornum, yes, here.
Mike Thomas.
Here.
All right. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So has everyone had an opportunity to see it? And at this point, Chair asks for a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
All
All
in favor?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll move on to workshop items. These are all just discussion items for today. And the first item on our agenda would be number 1, Dungeness Gearworks Design Review, PLN number 706.
Yep. So the applicant, Alan Perles, is seeking design review approval for an accessory structure for Dungeness Gearworks that will be 6,000 square feet. That will be used to assemble crab pots and material storage. The building will also include a small office and restroom for employees. Based off of the site plan that was submitted on May 15th, 2020, these are the conditions placed by staff. Utility meters, electrical conduit, and other service lines may not be mounted on the facade facing the street and should not be visible from the street. Ends of building shall be designed and articulated windows and other architectural elements. This will be provided on the southern elevation. It's currently being shown on the western elevation. Incorporate decorative tile or masonry of varying materials or patterns. This has only been provided on the west elevation. Will need to occur on all 4 sides. Compose architectural elements to add interest to the building facade. This will need to be provided on the southern elevation. Buildings shall be divided and given human scale by articulation and or modulation at 40 to 50 foot intervals. This will need to be provided on the southern side. Use change of materials for all 4 sides of the building. No buildings may have large areas of blank wall surfaces. Use architectural features and elements to enhance all building faces. This will need to be provided on the southern elevation. Based off this, staff is recommending design review approval with conditions for Dungeness Gearworks PLN 706.
Thank you very much, Josh. At this point, what I'd like to do is open it for question and discussion. If we could start with, let's go with you, Yvonne. You're at the top of the list here.
I was actually trying to open it. I've been trying to open it for, but like the whole time this whole started. I don't remember seeing anything that stuck out that I had questions about.
If you could bring those elevations up for us.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I don't have anything.
Okay. We'll move on then to Jan. Jan, did you have any questions or comments?
I guess one of the comment is staff, I guess, comfortable proceeding that they will, because it seems like they're just missing things on, they've got it on one side and not the other for quite a few things. Are we comfortable that they'll follow through?
Correct. It's many of the elements are there on the western elevation. They just haven't been provided on the southern elevation. And they're pretty simple changes based off of the size of the building and the
Okay.
materials.
Perfect. Thank you. That was my only concern.
And then Mike, do you have any questions or comments?
So the applicant has been made aware of it all, correct?
Yes,
Oh, the things that the conditions? Did you say that's correct?
that is correct.
Okay. And then the only other thing that I saw by looking on the vicinity map that's just above the Google Earth picture, it's listed as SR 530. I think it's not 530 because this would put this out in the middle of a farm field. So this has got to be SR 532.
531.
531. Okay. I knew it was one of those. It was only off by one. So, okay.
That'd be everything there, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bruce, any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a couple. It always is a bit of a problem for me to see buildings that have this many conditions beyond just minor questions of lighting and location of electric utilities, that this, although Josh has indicated that this is just a matter of wrapping what's on one side around the building. I think there's still a common misunderstanding on part of developers that the city's fairly serious about these design standards. And it's always a bit of a concern that we're asking staff, when we look at a design like is on the screen now, we're asking staff to make a point that we should be engaged in as well, that this is just unacceptable. And we're trusting that Josh is going to be able to negotiate this. It'll be interesting to see if what happens between now and between now and when we have to vote on it. But I'm assuming that if those negotiations aren't successful, that we won't be looking at it again until they are.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on that, Bruce? Or you're okay?
No, that's good.
All right. I want to echo a little bit about what Bruce just said, something more about how the guidelines, or not the guidelines, but the standards are set. And it seems as though we sort of get these guys that sort of roll the dice and see if maybe they can get by it or something. I don't, that's one of the feelings that I was getting. And the other was, we don't, when I'm looking at the landscape part of it, it shows now, are the landscape that shows on your plan here, is that newer stuff or is that existing material that's there? Or is,
So what's directly adjacent to the new structure is going to be new, but the existing street trees are there currently.
that's what I thought. Okay. So it's kind of a minimal amount of landscaping that they're going to be doing here. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just sometimes, when we can make the building look a little nicer, sometimes the landscaping part of it might help too. But it looks to me like on that one on the west side of the building, there is a small amount of landscaping there, I suppose, but I, as long as you're confident that they're going to go ahead and follow the standards, then I don't see a problem with it at this point. So I will finish with my questions and comments. So before we move on to item number 2, does anybody else have any further questions or comments?
No.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to item number 2, which is going to be Old Town Residential Design Standards.
So if you recall last meeting, we discussed a proposed project up on Washington Street across from the library. And this kind of brought to light discussion that we've had over a long period of time, and that is to develop residential design standards for Old Town Residential in Arlington. And the premise for that is to be able to protect the architectural styling of the homes that are in the Old Town residential district. And so we're working on that now to try and create a format and a direction for creating some standards and put those in place. And so over the next couple of months, we'll be working on that. We have some information that we'll post on our website, probably on our FTP server, so you can access that and be able to read these reports that we've kind of borrowed from other jurisdictions. And so we're looking at what is applicable to Arlington, what isn't, and then we can compile the applicable information and create our own design standards off of this. So anyway, so you'll start to see some emails coming through here for you to review some of this information and some of the examples. And I know that in our focus group, we talked about stylings that would look good up in this on these 8 lots that are being proposed. And so of the first photograph or the first drawing that you see in the materials here is actually a townhome design, but it could be made a detached house. So instead of it being common wall construction, this could be a standalone unit. So, but some of the design elements of that, you have a nice attractive porch coming off of that, so it's actual functional. The design elements, if you go from the base upwards to the roof line, really emulate the kind of design elements that we'd like to be able to see protected and progress throughout the Old Town Residential as infill projects come in. So the next photograph is just some photographs of homes that are within the Old Town Residential District. And so if you look at this, one of the primary stylings here is a craftsman style, and that's what this is an example of. So we click to the next one, Lana. So I want you to see the commonality here in all these photos is that they go from a craftsman style bungalow to a typical craftsman to elements of a craftsman style, but they're all really pull those elements together in Old Town. And so, and these are the most prominent ones within town. There's still more that we haven't attached to this, but this is really the styling that we'd like to see preserved in the Old Town Residential District. And so as infill starts to occur, we just want to make sure those standards are in place so that we can have all new construction typify this. So what we'll end up doing is we'll end up pulling together different architectural styles from the period that was important when they were built. And by the looks of it, we'll probably end up with about 5 home styles that we like to use as examples of elements that should be in
any new building type within the residential district. I think that's the last one.
That is the last
Yeah, okay. So any questions on that?
I have
No.
one.
Yes,
When we're talking about the houses and the styles, are we including the landscaping too?
we will, correct. Yep, so we'll look at the landscaping, we'll look at the frontages in the neighborhood that the development is being proposed in. So we'll incorporate all of those elements in order to try and, preserve and stimulate throughout the Old Town Residential District. It's a protection of that area. It's a zone that's very well thought of, and we just want to make sure that that's protected and we just don't have a bunch of various stylings that really aren't applicable into that zone. Hey, Mike, are you still on?
Yes?
So do you remember back in 90s, late 90s, when there were the Old Town residential standards that were created? They only were,
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes?
Yeah. Were you part of that when those were created?
Yes, I was.
Okay. They didn't last long, so we'd like to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we'd like to be able to look at those and kind of glean some of that information and incorporate it into this new version, so.
Yes, okay.
Any other questions or comments? It's kind of like an open forum here, guys, so.
Nope.
You want me to talk about those now, Mark, or when we talk at the
No,
next meeting?
we'll move on, Mike. We'll put together some information. We'll start this dialogue up over the next couple of weeks here, but yeah, definitely want to
Okay.
get your input on that, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. And then looks like you'll be up next also when we're going to be talking about item number 3. Thank goodness my video is not working. Is that that's going to be the housing action plan.
Right, so about a month and a half ago, you were all supplied with a copy of the draft housing needs assessment. And so this is the next step in the process to work towards our housing action plan. So one of the elements with this is if you look down here, there's a link on this page that's going to take you to a survey, which will pop up here any second. There we go. So the survey we'll post this on the Arlington homepage, and so we'll make sure we get some advertisement about this so we can start to generate people's interest in it and get some good responses out of this. So once this is posted, I would hope that each and every one of you will go in and answer the questionnaire and so we can have some information to glean on this. But tonight, I just want to kind of go through this so you have an idea what the questions are, and if there's anything that jumps out at you that needs to be changed, then we can address that tomorrow before we go live with this. So just kind of scroll down through the questionnaire.
Were you gonna read off any of them, or?
No. thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. anyways, this is, the reason for this is to garner some real-time information as we move forward with the housing action plan. So hopefully we get good participation from the public on answering the questions in this survey.
Do you want us to, if we had any comments on the questions?
Yeah, let's just speak about them right now. And
Okay. The second to the last question for me was a bit confusing. Do you have any concerns about being forced to live outside of Arlington in the near future? If so, describe why. That either implies I will be forced out economically or the city's boundaries may change. I just confused about
well,
what that
the
means.
intent is if you're forced out because you can't afford to live within the Arlington city limits.
Is there any way to make that a little, because I didn't,
Sure.
I had to ask Josh what it meant.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Bruce, on that. It does kind of seem as though there's some type of action that's going to be taken upon someone that they're going to be. But if it was something to the nature of that, it was more of a economical reason as opposed to a physical reason, it might be a better feeling question. How's that?
No, that's good.
It's just hard for me to relate it to anything. So, I mean, being vaguely associated, being vaguely aware of what is involved in these, that's the only one that I couldn't understand the reason for the way it's worded. That's all.
On that question, could it also be like, you being not forced, but I mean, having to live outside Arlington because you're, like downsizing and there isn't, senior housing, or maybe there's other things
Oh, sure.
besides economics?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's true. And do you know if we're going to be able to answer a question longer than one line?
It should expand out as you answer it. So
I do think it's just a text box that you can type in as much as you can. I don't think there's a character limit on it.
Okay. That was a little bit of a concern I had earlier, was that's like, wow, we're going to have to be incredibly brief with our answers.
Yeah, the other one I had was on page 6. What aspects of Arlington would you like to see preserved for years to come? I think I know what that means, but it's a little awkward. I don't mean to nitpick. I mean, the survey is good, but what does that mean?
And what was the time frame on this, Mark, that you felt like, and like, is it available now and it's going to run for a couple of weeks, or is it going to
no, we'll put it live this week. So
be? Okay.
any recommendations or changes, I'll get a hold of Blue Line tomorrow, have them make the changes, and then we'll get another version out to put onto the website. So which question is below this one?
Top one.
It's
Oh, yeah, aspects of Arlington.
I think I understand what they're trying to get at. I'm not sure that's the best wording to get at it.
Okay, what do you suggest?
some kind of qualifier in front of aspects, or
Hmm?
did you want like a qualifier on like social aspects, housing?
Something, what aspects of
Then you
Arlington?
limit the questions, the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe that.
It is kind of.
I'm not sure what that question is designed to elicit.
I think what they're trying to gain out of this is to find out what's important to you.
right.
And so
Yeah.
maybe that's the way it should be phrased. What's important, what do we want to see, upheld and.
No, yeah, I get that. It's just, in my own mind, if I have to spend time thinking about what it means,
Yeah.
For someone who's not involved in the planning process at all, they won't go through that process.
Maybe they just need to ask, what aspects of Arlington are important to you to preserve for years to come.
Sure.
Just as simple as that.
So is this going to be sent out through mail for people to fill out, or is it going to be?
It's online, Mike.
Well, I mean, is this going to go just to us, or is this going to go just, I mean, to everybody
no, it
in the whole entire?
It's going on our public web page, on the city's web page.
Okay. But how are the people going to, I mean, I don't actually know how many people look at that. I mean, I'll bet you nobody in my neighborhood even looks at that, except for one person that I know. That's what I mean. How is it going to get out to the public to know that this is here to take part in this, if they so choose?
Are we gonna get like the chamber to help promote it too, or other, we can do it too, right? Like on our own personal Facebook page or Instagram or whatever, but what, I guess, partners do you have too to help push this out?
Well, we have a weekly City of Arlington bulletin that goes out, and we can also put it onto our city web or city television station. So it can go on that as a banner. It'll just be scrolled through on a regular basis. So
I had another question and I lost it, of course. Sorry, I'm trying to find it again. It was the one about you're dissatisfied. Oh, what are your main reasons that you are dissatisfied with your current housing? I'm personally not. So I don't know what I would, other than, okay, maybe my lots.
yeah, I mean, you'd say exactly that. I'm not dissatisfied with my current housing situation. But somebody that is, it's just to try and glean the reason why they're dissatisfied.
Maybe we could just put one simple that just says, I'm good. Like I personally, I'm good. So I guess I would just hit other than, or would I ignore this? Ignore if you're not dissatisfied?
Yeah, so you're just saying, yeah, we could add another one on there.
I'm just, if you don't really care or need an answer, then that's different, but.
I would guess that you would just, when I'm looking at this, would check other and say, I'm not currently dissatisfied with my current housing situation.
Well, how long is this going to be up on the website?
2 weeks.
So I'm assuming that during that time, there'll be some monitoring of the answers.
Right.
And if that one becomes a problem because of what you're suggesting, Yvonne, that I'm assuming that they can be changed.
Yeah.
So if it's up for 2 weeks and only 10 people respond versus, is it going to be an actual, this is what we found out? Or are you going to set a minimum number of responses that you hope to get to make it effective?
Well, it is what it is, Mike. If people don't get into it and take the survey, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. I can't continue to run this because we have work product that has to continue. So
okay,
it's
well,
just
that's
kind of
what
a
I meant.
snapshot in time.
Yeah. I just wondered if you were going to do it for 2 weeks only and then you were done, or if you only got 100 people responded in 2 weeks, if you would re-advertise and go for 2 more and maybe somebody else would pitch in or something.
Yeah, I guess we'll look at that. If we don't get much in the way of response on it, we'll have to think about how we're gonna re-advertise it to get some responses.
Yeah.
And we may just continue to run it just so we have that information that we can add into the housing action plan at the end. So but it's just a snapshot in time to try and find out where people are. and what they think about
Okay.
housing.
And
Yeah.
frankly, Mike, based on other people's experience with this, 100 respondents would be enormously successful.
Okay, well, that's good because, you know, we don't have a lot of participation at times. That's what my concern is. If we only get a few people to participate, again, here we are in a very narrow path.
I have a couple more questions too.
Yeah.
When we're looking at this too, and just thinking, like, I will tend to be the one that fills these surveys out, but are you looking to, I mean, is it a household that you're trying to get, or is it truly just an individual? Because
It's all the above.
maybe even in I know Google gives you an option to be able to put a description up there that, because the way this reads, you're really after the individual. Some of these questions really, like, even where do you work? Like, I live in Arlington. I mean, I work in Arlington, but my husband works in Everett. So you wouldn't capture his information of working in Everett because unless I fill it out for him.
Well, no, because he has the ability to fill it out on his own.
Well, he won't, but that's what I'm trying to get at. So to be able to go through, like,
That I can't help.
how many other people are like that too, though? That
You could fill it out for him. On
that's
a
what I'm saying.
separate-
Like, I would probably fill it out for him, because I'm here and I understand that. But
Right.
how many others are out there that are the same way? That if it's, I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're looking at. Truly wanting to know that. Fine, maybe it is. Where are you employed, and where's your spouse or significant other that living with you? If that's what you want to do.
It's really to figure out where they are because it gets down to the housing employment ratios. So if you're commuting to Everett, Linwood, Seattle, Renton, that gives us an idea of where you are and what your routine is. And it kind of gives an idea of, okay, if you're commuting all the way down there, what's the reason? Is it because of the wages? And you have to live up here in order to be able to afford to have a house. So those are the kind of things that'll come out of this. So if there's explanation on the bottom there, as you're answering that question, that's helpful.
Okay.
So do you think that, Mark, we might be able to put this out on the social media, the city's like Facebook page or something like that to get a little more traction?
Yeah, we'll give it to our communications department and let them disseminate it that way. The thing about it is that it has to be very succinct, and so because if it isn't, people aren't going to fill it out. So you have to really limit and try and glean as much information that's pertinent to what you're trying to achieve. I totally understand that you like to see it be more defined so that you have the ability to answer longer, more detail. But the problem is if you start to add more and more pages to this, people will not fill it out. They'll get halfway through it and quit. And so you don't gain anything that way. So
I have to agree with you. And there's surveys that get so long that I've taken that I just stopped taking it.
that's exactly what happens.
Right.
If it takes more than 3 minutes, they're going to just stop and close out. So,
Okay.
But I think even some of this, like looking at the flyer and the jobs to housing ratio if you go back to the other flyers that you had, your total employment and jobs to housing ratio. I mean, even are you saying like total employment as in we clicked and said we're employed and that's how you got that 10,000, or total employment as in it was what the workforce here in Arlington is compared to the number of households we really have?
well, those numbers are based on projections. And so that's really contingent upon what industries you come into the area, into the Cascade Industrial Center. So if you have industries that move into the area that have high employment rates, that number is really going to expand. And so then we have to look at how to keep that ratio equalized. Otherwise, you'll outrun your employment base from what you have available for housing for that employment. So,
Okay.
and vice versa.
Mhm.
Oh, any further comments, questions about item number 3, the housing action plan?
One more question, sorry.
Sure.
Does this also, is this information something that you talked like that the school district pulls out of too, to kind of plan even for their expansions? And does this information get shared with them too, like that, or is this
Well,
something?
yeah, it's all good information. This will be also included in our comprehensive plan. So that's what the school district looks at. They look at the projections we do on our comprehensive plan and our updates to that. That's why this is kind of critical, because this will be included in our rewrite of our comprehensive plan in 2024. So important information for us to move forward with those projections. School district looks at that so they know how to plan for expansion of their facilities also.
So maybe that's something that, like, I didn't know that and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been in this meeting, right? But is that something even in the description of the Google form that when you open it or whatever the social media post, is it going to actually include that wording too? I mean, I can imagine that there would probably be more families willing to do it if they see that how it's going to affect the school district, especially right now with how sensitive we all are about what's going on with the schools being closed. So just another
Talking about as a part of this survey.
that it could be something that we are using to help grow and put into the, I'm just saying the marketing out there could be also related differently so that the parents might be more willing to fill this out and take the 3 minutes to fill this survey out.
The one thing I will tell you as we move forward with the housing action plan, that will be addressed in that part
Okay.
of the product. I don't know that there's any relevance to putting it into this without having to revamp this. Pardon me. This is kind of a set survey right now. If we need to do a survey later on to add additional information, but this is the create work product, and I can't really stop this process and have to refine it. It makes more sense to do another survey later on that may address different topics than this.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right.
Will we have a chance to talk about the document itself, like the housing element evaluation goals and policies at some point?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Are you talking about the needs assessment, Jan, or are you talking about the housing action plan? Or
I
both?
have the housing action plan where
Oh,
like
yeah.
on, oh, okay,
No, this all has to come through planning commission. We'll end up having a public hearing on it for adoption and all of that. So yeah, there'll be plenty of opportunity to comment on it.
okay.
And then I have another question. It's not about the survey, but on the housing action plan and the 2019 grant. I just got an email about this, so that's why I'm asking about the permanent supportive housing grant that just opened today or yesterday. Is that something that is another grant the city
You
can?
talking about from Snohomish County?
I don't know. No, Washington. The email I got was from I'm on the Washington State Department of Commerce listing, email listing, and they sent out the permanent. No, it looks like it's through the state, but I don't know if it's like cities or if it kind of makes me think it might be more towards like people wanting to build housing, but I didn't know if it was something that if you guys were going after or doing something with.
Was it the one for affordable housing, Yvonne?
Yes. Grants will support operation, maintenance, and service. Yes.
Yes, okay. So those are all programs that we will be looking at, and they'll be identified in the housing action plan.
Okay.
Because that goes on an annual or on a regular basis, so you'll always have the notices for funding available.
Okay. I just was curious. Thank you.
Mhm.
So any other questions or comments before we move on to the next item? Okay, thank you very much. And then so I'm going to appeal to staff at this point. Were there any inquiries for public comment?
No, there was not.
Okay. Then that being said, Chair asks for a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
All right.
Fine.
Great. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, everyone.
thank
Mark, I
you.
have a quick question for you really quick. It's offline though, but I went through the planning, short course planning thing. Do I email it to you? My certificate?
Hey.